Wait a minute, that's not right. As Liv sets Dom's stuff ablaze, the Judgment Day tries to put out all of their fires. The Wyatt Six unmask in front of Chad Gable, and everybody just seems to hate each other as they get in one final shot before SummerSlam. Okay, in the news! And the news indeed, it was the final Monday Night Raw before SummerSlam, and it came from St. Paul, Minnesota. So we will start with the main event as our match of the night between Gunther and the Judgment Day's Finn Balor. Balor insisted that no one from the Judgment Day help him out during this match, much the way that they would do throughout the entire night. So Balor tried to use the chop against Gunther early on, but that just seemed to anger him, as Gunther from there on out was focused on submitting Balor at all costs using the Boston Crab, sleeper holds, and rear naked chokeholds throughout the entire match. Fortunately for Balor, he was pretty adept at avoiding these and getting out of them somehow, including near the end of the match when he was able to land a drop kick to put Gunther into the drop zone and went for the coup de grace, but missed. This angered Gunther one last time. He locked in a sleeper hold and put Balor to sleep to get the submission win. But when he put in another rear chokehold, Priest came to Balor's rescue, and those two brawled to end the show, with Priest throwing Gunther over the announce table. Well, for the match itself, Gunther, that was his first match since winning the King of the Ring tournament. So I guess that hopefully knocked off any ring rust that the Ring General may have had. So he goes to 9-1 in one-on-one matches. For Balor, well, perhaps it's best to stick to tag matches, as he now goes to just 1-5 in one-on-one matches this year. In other Judgment Day news, Carlito messed up when he was told to have a match between himself and Sami Zayn, so Rhea made him go back to talk to Pearce a second time and set up a match between himself and, main event, Jey Uso. So Jey nearly won this match right off the very start, as he landed a super kick within seconds. But Carlito kicked out and the match continued, with him landing a couple different variations of neck breakers. But it was not enough, because Carlito went for the apple and started to eat it, probably to try to spit at Jey with it, but Jey was ready and he landed a spear, causing the apple to go up straight into the air, and Carlito straight down to the mat, where Jey got the pin and the win. For Jey, he temporarily tied Sami Zayn for the most one-on-one matches, as he went to 10-4 in one-on-one matches this year, while Carlito dropped to 2-5. But we did have that match with Sami Zayn, and because it wasn't Carlito, that match was with Dominic Mysterio. Surprisingly, Rhea did not come out for this match, so Dom had to handle it alone, and he surprisingly did pretty well for a while, landing a tornado DDT and a Three Amigos, where he didn't even mock Eddie Guerrero for a change, so I guess that's an improvement. Nonetheless, he then went for a frog splash that missed, leaving it open for Sami Zayn to hit the exploder suplex, and when he lined up for the haluva kick, JD McDonough and Carlito both came out to distract Zayn, and he knocked both of them off of aprons on either side of the ring, but Dom was able to get him into 619 position, and Zayn was right there to clothesline him as he went for the 619 and then hit the Blue Thunder Bomb. That may have won him the match, but JD and Carlito decided to interfere, causing the disqualification win for Zayn. Those two, plus Dom, then of course started attacking Zayn 3-on-1, but fortunately, main event Jey Uso came out to save the day and took all three of them out at once. But, of course, Braun Breaker had to get involved and attack Zayn from behind. But Zayn was able to rally and hit an exploder suplex again, lining him up for the haluva when Breakker got out of the ring, and just when you thought it might be over, Breakker ran right back into the ring. But Sami was ready yet again. Smarter man got it done and got Breakker one more time outside of the ring to end the segment. For the match, Zayn now has won 4 out of his last 5 and improves to 11-6 in one-on-one matches. For Dom, maybe he just needs to keep his focus on the ladies instead of his wrestling, because he is just 1-7 in one-on-one matches. We did have a few other matches on the card, and I guess this one took the place of the one that got canceled last week, as we had Sheamus taking on Big Bronson Reed. And it was a heavy hitting affair, as you would expect, most notably with Sheamus landing a white noise from the middle rope. But after he hit the 10 beats of the Balron, Reed got tangled up in the rope, so the ref tried to help him get unstuck. Pete Dunne came out of the crowd swinging his shillelagh right into Sheamus's head. That knocked him out, and Reed then was able to hit the tsunami with no resistance to pick up the win. For Reed, he's now won 4 out of his last 5, but remains under 500 at 5-6. But for Sheamus, this stops his 2-match winning streak, but he's still 4-3. We also had Xavier Woods taking on Karrion Kross, and Kross, of course, tried to get under Woods' skin, and it seemed to work when he said that Kofi should have quit after losing the title in just 6 seconds. This caused Woods to swing at Kross before the bell started. But during the match, it was actually a pretty even affair until the Authors of Pain got involved, with Akam landing a right hand onto Woods. But Woods was able to stave him off with a suicide dive and then avoided Razor throwing him into the ring post. But that just gave Kross time to recover, and when Woods went for the elbow drop, Kross avoided it and immediately hit the final prayer to pin Woods. So Kross gets his win back from losing to Woods in their previous match, and he improves to 2-2, while Woods goes to just 1-3 in one-on-one action. Woods' partners from last week, Otis and Tozawa, then took on their master's new apprentices in the Creed brothers. And as Gable loves to do more than anything, he again tried to stop Otis from landing the Caterpillar, but Otis took out Gable and then hit the Caterpillar on Julius. So as Otis went for the final kill by going to the middle rope, Brutus came up from the floor and stopped him from doing so, and though Otis made a valiant effort to fight both Creed brothers off, it was not enough, as they landed a double back body drop to pin Otis. But they, of course, continued their attack, with Gable joining in, and Tozawa, you were right there, man. First, you could have tried to break up that pin, but you just were there on the mat looking at it. You didn't do anything. Then you could have helped Otis once the 3 of them started attacking him, and you did nothing. You got out of the ring. This was truly sad. You've done this to him 2 weeks in a row now. Otis should be your number 1 guy. Instead, you just keep letting him take a whole bunch of punishment. Fortunately for you, and even more fortunately for Otis, the Wyatt Six then appeared. And surprisingly, 3 members of the Wyatt Six, Mercy, Huskus, and Ramblin' Rabbit, all unmasked to show that they are indeed Dexter Lumis, Joey Gacy, and Eric Rowan. So they then fought off Gable and both Creed brothers, with Abby also landing a nice crossbody onto Gable. So Gable then found Pearce later in the night, and he said that he wanted a match against all 3 of them next week on Raw. Lastly, we finally get a women's match, and this is why we can't have nice things like mid-card titles for the women, because out of 7 matches, we only get 1 women's match. But it was a 6-woman tag with Lyra Valkyria and Carter and Chance taking on the new trio of Sonya Deville, Shayna Baszler, and Zoe Stark. And It was Lyra who hit a nice sit-out powerbomb that might have ended the match, but of course the others broke it up, and then everything started to break down, eventually with, however, Carter and Chance appearing to come out ahead, ready to hit an after party, but Carter's legs were swept out from under her, leaving Chance wide open for Zoe to land a vicious knee and then the Z360 to get the win. So this was just the first match for the new trio, but they are now 1-0. But for Lyra, Carter, and Chance, they fall to 0-2 this month. But Damage Control had seen enough, and apparently they want to be the bigger bullies on the block, and they were able to clear the ring of Sonya, Shayna, and Zoe, with Io hitting the over the moonsault onto the floor, taking out all three of them. Beyond the mat for Monday Night Raw, we had Seth Rollins kick off the show, and he had both Drew McIntyre and CM Punk come to the ring so that Rollins could tell them the rules for the SummerSlam match between Punk and McIntyre, where Rollins would say that the only rule is that they'll need to listen to whatever he has to say. And all the rules are completely up to him. If he wants to count to 3, he'll count to 3. If he wants to call for a disqualification, he'll call for the disqualification. If he wants to count to 10 or 20 or 30 to get a normal 10 count outside the ring, he'll do that too, but he'll pretty much only do whatever he wants. So, as always, great job, Adam Pearce. Not only could you not get Seth Rollins onto the card to have a match, but now you also have him as a renegade ref who's just going to do whatever it is he feels like, instead of having these two men have any sort of standards to which they need to follow in their match. It's already been so much chaos between McIntyre and Punk outside the ring without ever having a match that we're just going to have it all turn into even more chaos once they get into the ring. And Seth Rollins isn't going to do anything about it to stop it. So I can see this one being a complete train wreck on Saturday night. Well, the theme of the night, however, was them saying just how much that they hate each other. And in fact, they all took turns saying how much they hate the second and third man. And so they just wanted to one-up each other in declaring their hatred, with it finally ending with Punk walking right up to McIntyre, but not touching, or the match would have been canceled. So I guess this one is still on, but it's gonna be wild. But that did just start the theme of everyone hating each other. But at least those three guys got face to face, as everybody else just seemed to want to monologue into the TV camera without ever seeing their opponent for SummerSlam. Well, I guess that was okay, but not too much significant came out of it, except that Liv Morgan decided to burn all of her Dominic Mysterio and Judgment Day apparel, and that she said that she would end the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour by beating Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. Elsewhere, in a backstage interview, we had Zelina Vega saying just how lucky she was to have Lyra Valkyria, Carter, and Chance help her out to help her get that win last week against Zoe Stark. But Zoe, Sonya, and Shayna then came up to Zelina, and of course, that led to them attacking Zelina, with Shayna kicking Zelina's injured arm right up against the wall. So we'll see how well Zelina is able to recover after that. In this week's Wyatt 6 video, Uncle Howdy spoke to Mercy the Buzzard, and it proved to be Dexter Lumis. And when Howdy said all that Lumis wanted was mercy, he then asked Lumis what would happen when the Buzzards started circling. To which Lumis surprisingly said, "Run!" Which, by my count, is just the third word that Lumis has ever said on WWE TV, following him saying "I do" to Indi Hartwell after he married her. Well, I have no idea what Indi has to say about what Dexter's actions have been as Mercy the Buzzard. So good luck to her. I hope it's working out okay, but we've not seen Indi for a few weeks now, so it might be a little rocky at this point. But nonetheless, it looks like Mercy, Huskus, and Ramblin' Rabbit will all have matches next week against Gable and the Creed brothers. Lastly, The Miz announced that he'll be the host in his hometown of Cleveland for SummerSlam. But R-Truth then came up to him and said that Miz was a bad host, which of course The Miz disagreed, but it seems like they were unconvinced, and so I guess the good news is that R-Truth said that he's got Miz's back and that he'll be helping him out. So hopefully we see some good classic R-Truth humor at SummerSlam. So with that, let's go to our STFs. And in this week's STFs, we had everybody decide to get in on the attack, so let's just start from the top of the show, where Brutus, Julius, and Chad Gable all attacked Otis after their match, which makes it a fine for all three of them. But we will not give any STFs to the Wyatt Six, as they were just helping out Otis get out of there. Then we had Pete Dunne hit Sheamus in the head with a shillelagh during his match against Big Bronson Reed, so Dunne will pick up a 1-week suspension. Zelina actually attacked first, but Sonya had already called for Shayna and Zoe to attack, so those three will pick up a 1-week suspension for injuring Zelina's already hurt right arm. Despite provocation from Karrion Kross, it was Xavier Woods who swung first before the start of their match, so Xavier Woods will have to get a fine. But during the match, Akam hit Woods with a big right hand, so he will also pick up a fine. Although they tried and failed to distract Zayn during the match, JD McDonough and Carlito both attacked Sami Zayn to force a disqualification. They also continued to attack after the match, and Dom then joined in, so JD and Carlito will both pick up 1-week suspensions, while Dom will also get a fine. But of course, poor Sammy, that wasn't the end, because Braun Breaker then came out and attacked him from behind, so Breaker, per usual, will pick up another fine. After the match with Sonya, Shayna, and Zoe, Damage Control made their big return, and they fought those three for a moment, including an over the moonsault by Io. So Io, Kairi, and Dakota will each get a fine. Lastly, Gunther continued to do a rear naked chokehold on Finn Balor after he had already put Balor to sleep, so Gunther will pick up a fine. The Judgment Day tried and mostly failed to put out their many fires. Seth Rollins appears to be more of a renegade than a revolutionary as a ref for the Punk McIntyre match, and everybody decided to get in their final shots to fan the flames of hate as we get ready for SummerSlam. I'm Dr. O'Kay, reporting on the WWE, where everything is okay.